We've been going to Disney World for 25 years, but this was our first time going to Disneyland.
Yeah.
And in this video, we're going to lay out the 7 things that surprised us and that we wish we had known before we began planning our first trip. The first thing we wish we had known from the beginning was not to fly through LAX, but instead to go through Orange County or John Wayne Airport.
Yeah, we kind of stumbled into that by accident, and we're glad we did.
We were flying from San Francisco up to Anaheim. We were there for work, and we'd never done this before. We had almost no notice we'd have time to go do this, so we just looked at kind of the obvious thing, which was LAX. And very quickly we realized there was quite a few closer airports. So if you're planning a trip to Disneyland, I would really encourage you to look and see if there's an option that brings you into Orange County or John Wayne Airport instead of going through LAX. We saved a ton of time, and I think it was a lot cheaper to get from the airport to the parks.
I do too.
The $100 extra per ticket we paid, I think we easily saved by having only a 45-minute ride with traffic and an accident, and instead paying $30 for an Uber. Once we got to Disneyland, I think for me one of the biggest surprises was just how much smaller it is than Disney World, and because of that, you don't have this big logistics of internal transportation and how you get around.
Right. Much like how we know Disney loved his hub and spoke method for the parks, the whole area is kind of laid out that way, where you start at downtown Disney and go through security there, and you kind of hub off to the different 2 parks from there.
Yeah, it was different in that, like, when you get up in the hotel at Disney World, you have to go figure out, am I going to take a bus? Am I on the monorail? Am I on a boat? Like, how am I going to get to this park?
Right.
Whereas Disneyland, you just
leave your door.
Just walk out.
Yeah, everything is
just right
really
there.
Condensed.
Yeah, you walk through downtown Disney, which is a lot like Disneyland Paris, where you have to walk from the resorts through downtown Disney to the parks. I'm sure people think of Disney World as being the odd one here, but it's the one we know. And so having no buses, no, I don't know, like boats, everything, it felt almost kind of
worried. Yeah, I kind of worried a little bit going into it because I'm so used to being heavily reliant on Disney getting me everywhere I needed to go. And when they said no buses, I'm like, well, how does that work? You know? But it becomes very clear when you're there that you don't need it.
One of the coolest parts about it was that because you're connected to downtown Disney, when you're at your hotel at night, if you don't want to eat another round of churros and, snackables, you can just walk out and you're at the restaurants.
Right there. Yeah.
That was a really cool aspect of it. I think that's one thing that I liked about the smaller, more condensed area.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't like as much is that when you get to the parks as they're about to open, everybody is in the same area because California Adventure and Disneyland, they literally back up the gates.
So you have a line going this way lined up for one, and a line on the other side. Yeah.
And
so
they literally met in the middle as the monorail went over.
It was chaos at first, but then when I realized that not everybody was there for the same park, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, this isn't just everyone rope dropping the one park.
Yeah. And it did get going pretty quickly once
it did. Yeah.
Yeah. And the monorail. That was really interesting.
That is completely different and kind of bananas.
Yeah, so if you are in downtown Disney and you have a ticket to go to Disneyland, you can take the monorail directly to Tomorrowland bypassing the front gate.
Right.
But if you don't have a ticket, you can't just ride the monorail.
No.
If you are in the park and you want to ride the monorail, you are able to go.
You can do a round trip. Everyone has to get off in Tomorrowland.
You are deboarding.
So you have to have a ticket for the park. One of my favorite things to do in Florida is just ride the monorail. That's not a thing in California.
Yeah. One cool thing about their monorails, the windows rolled down.
Yeah.
I don't know why they don't. I mean, I'm sure it's a different model, but it was just kind of cool to be in there and have the windows down, the air flowing. Getting around is totally different, but I really appreciate how the smaller size lets you really make it from place to place quickly without relying on a bus that may be here in 20 minutes, may take an hour. Who knows?
Yeah, only having the 2 stops on the monorail was different because you expect it to get you. I expected it to go through California Adventure too, but it really just brings you back to the gate.
Yeah.
It brings you to downtown Disney.
Yep.
So when we were preparing to leave for California, I was frantically looking for my magic band. I could not find it anywhere. I was really depressed. I'm like, when we get to our hotel, we need to have it so that we can get into our room and go on with our vacation. And we actually stopped at a gift shop when we got to the hotel, bought one right away. Come to find out, it has a lot less value in California than it does in Florida. I shouldn't have worried about it at all.
Yeah, we learned that the magic bands are not linked to your room the way you might be used to. And there's an implication of this. The first is that they're only good for park access, for PhotoPass access, and for the lightning lanes. You can also use them on the Magic Band Plus to have the kind of interactive experiences.
Still buzz and light up and stuff,
but you can't use them to access your room.
They're not your key and they're not charging.
Yeah, you can't charge with them. And we learned the hard way there's actually a really interesting aspect of magic bands that if you buy your magic band and activate it in Florida, it doesn't work in California.
Right. Rob had to unlink his band from My Disney Experience for Disney World so that he could relink it in the app for Disneyland.
Never worked.
Which was weird because I linked a brand new band in California and it just showed up in My Disney Experience in Florida. It was very seamless the opposite way.
Yeah, so I went through the whole trip without a functioning magic band, which meant I went down to the front desk. I explained. I got a room key, which I was not able to use as my...
It was just a room key.
It was just a room key. I couldn't use it to get in the parks. So I had to use my phone. That was a little frustrating because it meant my phone had to be charged all the time to do anything. And I don't want to have to carry around a power bank all day. So not having the magic bands was a different experience. A little bit of a frustration because it was a surprise.
Right. Well, and I wish I hadn't spent so much time worrying about it on our way there because it ended up being just
moot. Like a cow's opinion. It's moot.
It's moot.
When we got to Disneyland, we kept hearing people talk about the keys to the kingdom or the magic keys.
Yeah.
And we had no idea what this was. And we came to find out that it's what they call their annual pass program. And I guess they're keyholes. I'm not exactly sure how that works. But the pass program is I guess it's like the same, but there's a couple of differences we noticed that if you are a magic key holder, in Disney's California Adventure, you can go to the Magic Key Terrace.
Right.
Which is a kind of a lounge and bar over the Golden something wine bar by the water. The Golden Vine? It doesn't matter. It was a little frustrating to find out that there's like, oh, hey, can we go up and get a drink? They're like, no, you have to be a Magic Key holder. Right. Fine. We're DVC members. We understand that there's exclusive lounges. But they don't have that in Disney World, so it kind of surprised me. It turns out now they do, but only for a
limited time.
Yeah, Restaurant Marrakesh right now is an annual pass holder lounge until July 31st. So it is a pop-up thing at Disney World, but it's a permanent thing at Disneyland.
Right.
They also had some Magic Key exclusive merchandise.
Yeah, some of the pins were exclusive which I'm used to with pass holders too. They do that as well in Florida, but it felt more prevalent in California. Like they really have more benefits when you buy your Magic Key.
Yeah, they had a celebration going on for Chinese New Year while we were there. And the only pin available was a Magic Key pin. And so that was perhaps that's all that was left.
It's possible they were sold out, but the weekend that we were there, you had to have a Magic Key to get the commemorative pin.
Yeah. I feel like if you come 3,000 miles and you just want to get a pin for the thing, it was a little frustrating not to have the Magic Key to get it.
Yeah.
So you've been to Disneyland before.
Yes, but we're talking about back in the 80s when I was a child and California Adventure wasn't even there.
But all of your stories when you and I would talk about it, it was all of these vintage experiences that I never got to see at Disney World.
Yep.
And so when we got to Disneyland and they had Mr. Toad's Wild Ride and Casey Jr.'s Circus Train,
Submarine.
the submarine, I was pretty excited to be able to go onto those. And I'll be honest, this was my surprise. They hold up.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that Mr. Toad's Wild Ride goes to hell.
Yes, it does. It's very hot in there.
I just had this assumption that it was just like a crazy toad doing wacky stuff driving around. But no, it's a really dark story.
Right.
That was actually kind of cool to see that it was so different than I expected.
I'm not a roller coaster person. I don't do drops like at all. So having so many dark rides is so much fun because I really felt like that was my element. Like I actually could go from one ride to the next and not have anxiety about, well, what is this one going to do?
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting and kind of surprising how much they integrated the movies into the rides more than what you see at Disney World. Like on Small World.
Yeah.
Ariel is there.
There's little characters scattered throughout of Small World. I thought it was adorable. I loved it.
Yeah, I know the submarine ride is branded as Nemo's, but I guess every time I heard that, I'm thinking like Captain Nemo or something. But having like the characters going throughout, it created a really interesting experience.
And actually diving below the water. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was super fun.
I really enjoyed that one. So in the short amount of time that we had to research this first trip to Disneyland, I was doing some watching YouTube, as we all do, and I came across an experience at California Adventure called the World of Color, Happiness. And we booked the dessert party, which you can book through your app, just like any other dining experience. And that was amazing.
Yeah, when it said dessert party, I was kind of thinking it was going to be like sweets and cakes, and they're not my favorite. So when we got there and the box was full of like cheese and grapes and fruits,
crackers, and there were desserts.
No, there was. But having
it was in layers. They gave you like a snackle box, and you could eat your way through it. And
the show was really cool.
Oh my gosh, that was spectacular.
Yeah, I had never seen in person something like that. It's kind of like, I mean, we'll have stuff up here, but it's like the Bellagio fountains, but with a projector.
Right, all the colors, and it was beautiful. And all the music. Yeah.
The music was fantastic. It actually had a storyline that kind of carried through.
Right.
It was called Happiness, but for some reason it didn't click with me that would be
the emotions.
The emotions.
Inside out. Yeah.
So it was a really fun experience because I didn't have any idea what we were getting into. Yeah. When we booked the trip, I really wanted to stay at the Disneyland Hotel. And my rationale for it has nothing to do with the history of the hotel or I wanted to be near Trader Sam's.
Yes.
I wanted to be able to walk.
First things first.
Yes.
Trader Sam's.
Priorities are important here.
And it was the first thing we did when we got out of the Uber. We dropped our bags, went straight to Trader Sam's.
We arrived at night.
Yeah.
So I just wanted this was like 9 a.m. We're at Trader Sam's. But we got to the hotel, and I really, really thought it was neat to have it right in the center as a detached area. I know you can stay at Polynesian and have that same thing, but it felt different because it's its own standalone thing in the courtyard. Each resort had a very specific reason you would want to stay there. And like the Grand Californian has amazing access
to California Adventure.
California Adventure. It's like a private secret door in the back.
And the Pixar one brought you to the boardwalk area.
Yeah, and it has great kids theming. Like if I were traveling with kids, I would want to stay there. Yeah. And if I'm going to sit and drink each night at Trader Sam's, I want to be at Disney's
hotel.
Yeah. And so I feel like it more so than at Disney World, and maybe it's because there's only 3.
Yeah.
And each brings
they're of similar price too per night. They're a couple $100 either way, but not that much of a difference between them.
Yeah, it's not like the, Grand Floridian versus Pop or something like that. Although that's narrowing too.
It's getting closer.
So I was surprised that each one was so distinctly different and so distinctly useful in its own way. Whereas because there's like 30 resorts at Disney World, they all kind of start to feel the same after a while.
But all 3 of them were very beautiful and in their own ways too.
Oh yeah, we'll have to go at least 2 more times to try each one.
Gotta stay each one.
Collect them all. I guess this last tip or observation is that if you're staying on property, you get a complimentary lightning lane pass.
Yes, which we almost slept on because we didn't know about it and we didn't know how to redeem it.
Yeah, there's direct check-in, right? You never go to the front desk. And so there's no point where someone sits you down and says, okay, you're new here. Yes. You get a free lightning lane pass. I mean, so we didn't know.
I just happened to be scrolling through the app saying, what It says we have a lightning lane.
Yeah, so we did eventually realize it. It's towards the last end of our last day.
Yeah.
We happened to be standing near Soaring when
Yeah.
we realized it.
Yeah.
So what do? Straight to Soaring.
Yeah, that one had a pretty long line, as it usually does,
Yep.
and we were able to use our lightning lane to get in.
Yeah, now the Lightning Lane's not usable on all the premium rides, but it covered pretty much everything in the park.
Right.
I think there's just one or two things it didn't cover.
So since that was our first trip, I'm sure we made mistakes and we've probably missed out on a lot of cool stuff. So for you seasoned Disneyland people out there on the West Coast, please leave us a comment and let us know what your tips are for getting around the long lines, maybe the best time of year to go, which is your favorite hotel and why. I mean, the list goes on and on. We're just getting started with Disneyland. And
Yeah, and if you're a Disneyland person and you're planning your first trip to Disney World, let us know in the comments what questions you might have that we could
absolutely.
potentially help answer for you, because we know a lot about Disney World, but we know nothing.
we do.
About
And we
Disneyland.
even have a video coming up where we took our grandchildren to Disney World for the first time. And that was quite an experience.
I'm still tired. It's been a month and I'm still tired.
We're getting old.
Yeah. Bye.